Hey guys and girls, Bored Now back with you, and on this video I will be reviewing the first episode of His Dark Materials, the new BBC HBO co-production series, fantasy series. And I can say season 1 actually, or series 1, because there is going to be a second series. It's already been commissioned. And this episode is called Lyra's Jordan, so referring to the title character Lyra. Yes, so this is obviously based on Philip Pullman's very popular series of fantasy novels, which are called, the trilogy is called His Dark Materials. First film or first book was obviously The Golden Compass, so I'm assuming that's what this opening series is going to be based on. It's 8 episodes long, and there was a film of it, of The Golden Compass, that is of course in 2007, I want to say, just over 10 years ago, which yeah, I remember not being that great. It was alright, it had its moments, but I don't remember it being particularly great and stand out. And I'm not sure it did that well, because I'm guessing there probably would have been plans to do the other books as films, but that never happened from what I could remember. It was only The Golden Compass. Also, apparently there's been a stage production in the past, and the books are very highly regarded amongst fantasy fans. So this is sort of a big deal for the BBC, and obviously in collaboration with HBO, but it's on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock on BBC. As I said, 8 episodes over the coming week, so that's going to take them up to Christmas, roughly. So they're sort of hoping it's going to be like their new prestige sort of Sunday night drama, if you like. And they've stuck it at 8 o'clock, a bit earlier than they normally would. I think normally drama on the BBC would go out about 9 o'clock, but they've done it in an hour early, I think, to try and attract the younger audience, because obviously they know they might have school the next day, and this is obviously something aimed at children. So I'll start with the setup of the plot, which is probably not much to give away from this first episode, because a lot of it is sort of set up for what's going to be happening moving forward. But we start off in the past, and we see the lead character of Lyra, who's played by newcomer Daphne Keen, and we see her dropped off by the James McAvoy character. I made a hash of that sentence. We see him drop her off at this in Oxford, at this sort of quite posh sort of school, quite out of the way and sort of abandoned. But he drops her off. He gives her to the head principal, played by Warren Clark, who's nice, sort of good character actor, been in quite a few things, was in 3 Billboards, was in Person of Interest on TV. I think he was in The Wire as well, but don't quote me on that. But he's sort of actor you see pop up a lot, a good character actor. So he's playing the head of this school. And at the start, Lyra's lost her parents. They've been, something's happened to them. They've been killed, and she's become an orphan. And the James McAvoy character gives her over and says, you must protect her. She's special. It's important, you must look after her. So gives her to, as I said, the one car, and then he goes off. And then we fast forward to the present day, and we're in this alternate universe where people are given sort of demon sort of form, and they must choose when they're mature enough, they animal form, I should say. Sorry. Then when they're mature enough, they must decide which one they're gonna take. So we're at the school, and Lyra's obviously now, 12, 13, whatever the age is, and she's obviously been brought up at this school, and she's, you can see how she's meant to be like a really big deal. She is kind of the chosen one. She has some special powers. But the plot of the first episode really is then the James McAvoy character he's an explorer essentially, and he's been off and he's discovered this whole new world, this whole new universe up in the sky, and it's a really nice visual actually when we see it later. But he's discovered this, and it turns out that the powers that be at this Oxford school, and the Warren Clark character in particular, doesn't want these things to be unveiled, and the Clark character sort of reasons then, we're doing it for their own protection. It's not sort of healthy. So, and I think this sort of is part of the point of the books. Apparently, then Pillman was supposed to be quite critical of religion and of the restrictions and the institutions and how it tries to, control people's minds and their thought processes, and tries to restrict kind of the desire to learn new things, to discover and find out more about the world, that sort of thing. So you can see that sort of at play in this episode. And so that's the basic setup, and there's a little other plots sort of simmering along here and there, and obviously, I mean, I'll get into full spoilers in just a moment, but they obviously, at one point you see how serious it is because they tried to poison the McAvoy character in his wine glass, and Lyra sees this. She's lurking about and warns him. But yeah, that's one of the main plots, this undiscovered sort of country, this universe up in the sky, and this whole different race of people who we find out are taking children at one point. But anyway, the sort of story is building to them trying to get to this place and discover it and find out just what it's all about. And so, Lyra, once she finds this out, is keen to escape and explore. And obviously the institution wants to control this. And that could be behind the whole reason you see the Ruth Wilson character. People know her from Luther or other stuff. And she appears and is this, like, supposedly important prestige sort of figure, and she asks Lyra to be her assistant and to escort her on this trip, and at first Lyra is a bit, I mean, she asks, can my friend Roger come with us because the boy's here with her, and he's obviously seen as being below Lyra because he doesn't have the special talent she does, but they're friends anyway. And yeah, she says, so she agrees to it, but then mysteriously Roger disappears the next morning. But Lyra anyway ends up going with I forget the character's name, but the Ruth Wilson character up in an airship, which is kind of how we end the episode. So I guess I'll come to my overall thoughts on the episode, the first one, and I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was a bit middling overall. I'm not a huge fantasy guy, particularly this sort of fantasy. It did feel very sort of sub Harry Potter type thing. It felt a bit gimmicky because you obviously have, like Lyra has this like companion who's like a mouse, and she carries him around, and there's also a talking tiger. So I mean, all the animals sort of talk in this universe, and I always find stuff like that, because obviously it's different if it's an animation and you have talking creatures. That's a whole different world. I mean, there are ways to doing it, and it's not that it necessarily looks bad, but stuff like that I do find a bit jarring. It sort of takes me out of things, and just, I mean, if it's done here and there, maybe, but because you get a lot of it in this, I just think it's just a bit too much for me. I just find it a bit too clunky. But overall, the first episode just didn't grab me that much. It was a bit plodding, and it just seemed to lack any real energy or magic in the director, which I think is one of the most important things in this sort of drama, really, in fantasy and magic type stories. And there's some sequences I thought were quite talky, quite sort of stagey in the dialogue. Some quite po-faced sort of delivery. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I'm probably making it sound worse than it was. It just felt a bit slow, a bit middling. And maybe then it just wasn't for me overall, rather than actually saying it was necessarily that bad. But I think part of that could just be because it's a set-up episode, because it is the first episode and they're setting everything up, and it may well kick into gear and get more interesting once they get into the plot, in the next episode, once they're off, exploring, and you've got a lot more tension. So that's to be seen. I think the best thing about certainly this first one was the cast. I mean, the casting is really, really good. I know there's been a lot of talk about the lead girl, as I say, Daphne Keen, a newcomer. I actually wasn't that impressed with her. I think it's interesting because I think she's good in the sense that she feels like a real kid. She feels very natural in that and believable. So she's good in that sense, but I didn't necessarily think as an actress she was that amazing. I didn't really think, because I've heard people say, she's a standout, she's really great, she's gonna steal the series from these more experienced actors, but I didn't really feel that. I mean, I just thought, at times they made her quite whiny and annoying, as they did with Roger as well. I thought the pair of them at times got a bit sort of whiny and annoying. So it's funny, like, in a way she felt like a natural kid, so it maybe felt then that's because that's who she is in a way, but then it didn't really feel like she didn't bring that much charisma to the part or that much of an interest, which I suppose may be the point, because in a way she's the character you expect to be like the ordinary, or that's kind of the idea she's trying to be an ordinary gal. But anyway, that's what I thought about her performance. As the series moves on, I think I might get more into her, and she'll hopefully be given more to do. Ruth Wilson is really great. She's always impressive, and I think she's one of those, she can just grab your attention without doing very much, sort of thing. So when you see her character first enter, I think it's a really impressive entrance, and she just grabs your attention, and it's just through like sort of this icy sort of appearance, and this sort of just through sort of the eyes and the smile and very sort of playful, sinister sort of smile, and the way she carries herself, and the way that that particular scene was shot, but it's a really good sort of introduction to her character. And I mean, anyone who knows anything about the story, I think, knows that she is kind of up to no good. She was obviously played by Nicole Kidman in the film, and that was one of the better parts of that film, I thought, was Kidman's performance. But yeah, Wilson grabs your attention really from the word go, and it's a very subtly played performance, even though the character is basically murky and up to no good. I think it's open to what you think, to just how much she actually knows. She's obviously there's something going on with her and the Warren Clark character. But that's really good. I mean, Anne-Marie Duff, who's another really good character actress, very underrated. I think she's only in it briefly, but she plays the mother of one of the other boys at the school. And at one point, there's this big ceremony talking about he's obviously decided on his animal. But then later on, we find out one of her other sons, because she has two sons, he's been kidnapped and taken by these creatures from the other place, these new species. So there's a whole group of people, adults, who are planning to travel to the other place to try and defeat the monsters and get the kids back. So Anne-Marie Duff's only in it here and there, but she's very good whenever she is in it. And I mean, McElroy, I think it's one of these performances that's going back to some of his older roles, when he was younger, let's say. I think it's that sort of more youthful sort of enthusiasm, sort of charismatic, very energetic, rather than the colder, more sinister roles you've maybe seen him develop in films like Split and Filth as well. So certainly the casting you can't argue with. I think it's really well cast, some good character actors. And it does have its moments. I mean, I don't want to say it's terrible, but at the moment, it's not really grabbing me. It is a bit flat for me. There's not a lot of life to it. The opening, I think, the opening at the college, I think, is very good, and I did like Lyra running around with Roger and jumping off and landing on the bed, that sort of thing, because you really got a sense of life, a sense of playful, youthful sort of adventure. But there really wasn't enough of that in the first episode. There wasn't enough kind of magic and danger, a sense of wonder, which I think you need to sort of hook you into what's happening in the drama. But hopefully that will come. I mean, hopefully it was a bit slow just because of it being a setup episode. So it's, as I said, 8 parts, and it's on once a week, every Sunday. So, I will stick with it, at least for now. We'll see. I mean, if it doesn't develop much, and if I don't have a lot to talk about, then I might have to drop it. But for now, it's manageable. I think I can do this one a week. But that's my thoughts anyway on the first episode of His Dark Materials, new BBC HBO co-production. So if you've seen the episode, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll be back with a review of episode 2 next week. Goodbye.